How's it going, everybody? Without question, Shinobi is one of, if not the most polarizing hero in the game. He offers such a unique playstyle which ultimately makes him also one of the hardest characters to balance. This can also be seen in the fact that we've gotten a second iteration of a rework in the currently ongoing testing grounds. The last one was a tad bit broken, so let's take a look at this one then. A link to the blog post with the changes will also be in the video description. First, some simple changes. Shinobi no longer does bleed damage at all. It's all been converted to direct damage. This includes the slashes from Sickle Rain, Shadow Strike, which is the parry riposte, and then the teleport from a deflect. This now also means that he feeds more revenge than before. We've also been able to see this repeatedly in other reworks. Ubisoft doesn't particularly like to mess with the bleed damage numbers, and instead they change the direct damage portion of moves. Having all of his damage as direct now, Shinobi's numbers can be more fine-tuned if necessary. The new damage numbers are 3 per slash on Sickle Rain, the riposte deals 18, and the deflect clocks in at 24. Let's move on to Sickle Rain then. It's not only the bleed that was changed. In the previous testing ground, Shinobi could access Sickle Rain from a guard break. That has been removed as it allowed for too easy a gank setup. Damage is now 20, plus the previously mentioned 9 from the 3 slashes. Now, the most important aspect here are the pinning rules. Sickle Rain has always been a move that didn't care about any of those. This has finally been rectified. No longer can he just grab people out of other crowd control moves and infinitely chain move after move. This change is presented in two ways. For one, like I said, Sickle Rain doesn't just grab people out of everything. If you've watched my previous testing ground video on him, you should be familiar with the Sickle Rain into Demon's Embrace gank. This one does require precise timing now. Only after wake up within the 100 ms window, where a parry or dodge can no longer happen, is it possible to pin your opponent now. Otherwise, you will simply hit wake up armor. And then during the Sickle Rain, every grab type of move will just push the opponent away. I've tried hitting the exit frames, but it's either not possible or I'm just bad. Both options are definitely possible here. Same goes for two Shinobis alternately doing the move. It's no longer possible unless you hit the 100 ms window after exiting the hit stun. Ultimately, this makes a gank still possible, but it's far harder to pull off. As the person being ganked, I'd say go for the parry, just to be sure they don't get it by accident. But the move kept the two properties from last time. Top Sickle Rain is unblockable, while the side ones are undodgeable. The undodgeable property plays a role in many of his mix-ups. I'll talk about that more after we're done going over the changes. For now, let's talk ranged heavy. They're calling it a heavy, but it's more of a ranged bash. It is no longer target swappable, and the wall splat feature has been removed. You also can't throw it after a backflip anymore. Let's just quickly cover that one's pinning properties as well. Well, not really pinning, but last time it seemed to ignore the third hit stun rule. So, unless I'm mistaken, I think that the ranged heavy after a kick does land outside of hit stun, meaning the ranged heavy applies first hit stun. In the example here, you can see that my deep gouge is not blocked, but the block comes up straight after, indicating a third hit. So, if you're designing ganks around the ranged heavy, keep this in mind. But back to the move itself. The heavy links to your front roll mix-up. So let's talk about these then. The front roll and the backflip. Both of these moves function kinda like enhanced dodges now. They have an insane number of iframes on it, but at the same time they are vulnerable to guard breaks. Shinobi players for a long time now, well since basically forever, are used to having their backflip as an escape from being guard broken. This can be a harsh adjustment for many. In general, Shinobi is highly guard break vulnerable during a lot of his moves, as he relies a lot on dodges, and now that both rolls are included, even more so. But when used against attacks that can be dodged, then they function quite well. His mobility got a lot safer in teamfights because of this. His mobility hinges on the effectiveness of his dodges, and those got some changes as well. No longer can you double dodge backwards. This was done by just letting go of the movement key or stick and then performing a dodge. Stamina cost is now 6 And he again got access to his neutral attacks after a double dodge, not a singular dodge. On single dodge, he has access to his bash now. Ubisoft is trying a new timing here as well. Up until now, these Legion kick style of bashes had a minimum delay of 300 ms into the dodge until they were allowed to perform the bash. On Shinobi, it is now a minimum of 200 ms, so it can come out ever so slightly earlier. Maximum delay is still 500 ms. Alright, those are the changes, let me give feedback then. We're sticking with the kick. The effectiveness of this bash at high level was not really affected by the decrease of the delay into the dodge. In general, when looking at the 300-500 bashes, there are clear winners when it comes to their effectiveness. Orochi and Jeonhu have a functioning mix-up, whereas Centurion does not. Centurion has no other means of mixing you up really. Orochi has so many additional options on a forward dodge that a reaction to simply orange is extremely hard. It is no longer a single stimulus reaction but a multi-one, which forces arrows on the defender. And sadly, Shinobi has the same problem as Centurion. On a single dodge, all he can do is either kick or wait out the window and throw a neutral GB. There is no fast attack or undodgeable in his repertoire to mix up the opponent, which ultimately makes the neutral kick a not so great offensive option. Now let's compare this with two of his Inchain Mixups, because Shinobi really does work in that department. After a riposte, he has the option of either a 500 ms kick or an undodgeable side heavy in the form of Sickle Rain. First of all, the kick is already unreactable, even at higher levels. The extra pressure from the undodgeable makes defending against both options pretty much impossible. A similar mix-up is after landing a ranged heavy. You forward roll, and then you can flip kick or undodgeable heavy again. Same type of mix-up, which is also not interruptible by a light because of the previously applied hitstun. Let me clarify and go into a little detail here about the forward roll. I mentioned that it is considered as a dodge and because of that has iframes. In theory, a dodge should be considered a defensive move, right? Now, is the forward roll actually a defensive move though? I think it very much is an offensive one. And at the same time, it does suffer as such when performed after a backflip. The opponent can light on the reaction to seeing you forward roll, which kind of neuters the roll's effectiveness. Now we have the dilemma of what the move's role is supposed to be. Should it be an offensive move that has no iframes but is safe from guard breaks? Or is it more of a defensive one that needs the iframes but is guard breakable? I don't think there is as clear-cut an answer unless we scramble the properties and make it completely different. But then we'd run into the trouble of rules again. Is it just bending the rules, or is he once again breaking them then? The clips shown should give you a good idea already. After the ranged heavy, forward roll is safe, but if your opponent is in neutral, you're shit out of luck because they can light you on the reaction to seeing your forward roll. The identity, or rather purpose of that move, isn't all that clear, I guess. But alright, let me show you a few more things. Because of double dodges, Shinobi can somewhat counter or rather severely limit his own mix-ups, as well as the ones from some other heroes. A bash or undodgeable mix-up can be negated by buffering a dodge no matter what, and then deflecting the undodgeable in case it comes out. And when I feint to guard break, the Shinobi can kick, so the mix-up is limited to a neutral guard break. This also works against Black Prior and in a limited fashion against Kyoshin as well. It's not identical in terms of all options, but you get the idea. The fact that both dodges have deflect frames is what allows Shinobi to do this. Then, Shuriken, his tier 2 throwing star feat, does confirm a kick. And as explained, his in-chain offense is really strong, so this is quite a potent option to get into it. Might also be way too strong, but oh well. And the last thing, not all his bashes ledge. The normal kick doesn't, and neither does the ranged heavy. Yet the flip kick and the riposte kick do. Up for you guys to decide whether that's working as intended, or should be made consistent. And I'll leave it at that for now. There's been a lot of positive overall feedback about this hero. Unlike previously, many people do enjoy fighting as and against Shinobi. So we're definitely seeing a step in the right direction. Some might not be happy that he isn't as strong as Orochi's rework, for example. Nevertheless, I think the hero still feels like Shinobi, but in a much healthier way. The last few reworks have all gotten additional changes when they eventually hit the live servers, so do give your feedback when Yubi sends you that survey. Maybe you'll get some additional ones that make him even better. Having said that, hope the video was helpful. Thanks for watching. Laters everybody.